What's up, CHFFL? Welcome back as we wrap up our 2022 preview videos. We've done 9 teams so far. We see that Swan is up at the top, Max at the bottom. I have a feeling Swan won't be the top by the end of this video, though. And then we have a big pileup in the middle this year. Very sharp bell curve. The center, Vanis, Stan, Mini, all going to be fighting, nipping at Mark's heels. Today, we're going to get the last 3 teams, which are yours truly, Marty, and then Grant to wrap it all up. League averages, just a quick refresh, VC 288, AVC 266, give you an idea of where teams stand. Now, I've been so excited to look at my team because if you've been paying attention, every year that we've been a keeper league, I have stunk. And I have ranked myself low accordingly, but this year I don't have to do that. First overall pick, round 2, pick 3, 3 picks in the 3rd round, moved up in the 4th round, extra 5th round, so the draft board looks very good. Keepers, not dominant, but with that draft board, good enough to set me up in a nice spot. Derek and I have had Josh Allen on our team 2 or 3 years now. We're going to take him again, round 6. Hard to tell where the first quarterback should come off the board, but we don't have to worry about that because we can have him well after he would be going. Nick Chubb will keep at the end of round 3, which is pretty good for a borderline RB1, RB2. And then we have to pick between Goddard and Elijah Moore. Either can be kept in the 10th. Probably leaning Moore rather than Goddard. Just not a lot to be excited about with the tight end 7 or so. Still, very happy to have a good running back, good quarterback, first overall. VC comes in at 385. This is the highest on record. AVC 358. That's also good for being first in the league. So, for a change, I'm in the top half, which is very exciting to not be down at the bottom as we get a season started. Key for Derek and I in this draft is capitalizing on that round 2, pick 3. Who are we going to take there? Presumably we take a running back first overall and we have Chubb. And I'm still looking at it and who I think will fall to that position. Can this be a super team if we don't have a top wide receiver? 3 best wide receivers are being kept. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a fun, interesting year for sure. It would be bad process not to have my team ranked in the S tier this year just based off the numbers alone. So there it is. Solidly above Swan by about 30, 40 points in the VC category. Let's move on to Marty. Marty picking 11th overall. He's got no 3rd round pick, no 5th round pick. It's going to be a tough draft for him to navigate after last year was one of the more positive years in his franchise's history. Keepers, Marty has keepers this year, which we can't always say. Aaron Jones could be sneaky in the 2nd round depending on where you think he's ranked. Considering value shift, he'd be kept right about at value. So if Marty wants him, probably wants to keep him. Devin Singletary can be kept in round 7, again, around at value, but that's in that peak of value shift, so it should be about 12 to 14 picks ahead of or behind where he would go. Hollywood Brown, Marty, I think, really wants to keep Hollywood Brown and is going to be doing it, but he's keeping him at value at best, maybe a little below value. And then Dalton Schultz is really the good one, and I can't believe I didn't have Dalton Schultz in my notes the first time. But keeping him in round 8, a lot of hype around Schultz this year, being in a high passing offense, lost to Amari Cooper. ECR has him at 62. That's the best keeper I think Marty has ever had. Still, his VC comes in at 11th in league. AVC also 11th, 197. Pretty low there. Noticeably lower than Parker, not as low as Max. Schultz does provide some good value, but with no 3 and 5th. And his first overall pick is 11th, so he's not getting any of those top guys. I just can't feel that great about Marty this year. I have him noticeably a tier below Parker in the C- range. Finally, let's wrap things up with Grant. I'm sure he's excited to see this. Grant has been doing work this offseason and has improved his outlook significantly. 2 first-round picks. That trade with Max technically benefited Max, but benefited Grant a lot, picking at 2 and 7, then pick 6 in the second round. No third round pick, but 2 in the fourth, 2 in the fifth. It's going to be really nice. Keepers, you have James Conner, round 5, ECR 32. That would be good value. Deshaun Watson not looking so much. I had this in the notes because I know Grant wanted him to, but with the suspension for 11th games, probably not keeping him. Cam Akers, definitely round 8. Getting a lot of hype in that. Late 3rd, early 4th round. Etienne coming back off the injury for a year. Can be kept in round 10. That's also really good value. 3 running backs, most likely, with Connor, Akers, and Etienne. Grant's VC comes in at 2nd, and mine was the highest on record, but this is pretty darn close as well at 374. AVC, about as big of a drop as I had at 350. 2 firsts is huge. I'm envious, and I feel like before he made that pick with Max, I was kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the league, but now I can't say that anymore. He can take one of those top 2 guys and then also take his pass catcher of choice at 7th overall, as I expect the first 6 picks to be running backs. Great moves this offseason. Congrats, Grant. Looking forward to the draft. Here's the interesting thing, though. Even with that 7th pick, he's still going to be keeping 3 running backs and then drafting a running back 2nd overall. So is he going to be a little overloaded? I foresee more moves in the future. We know Grant likes to have more moves than just about anybody in the league. So he's probably going to offload those running backs for a receiver, tight end, quarterback, something like that. I have to put Grant in the S tier. It would, just like it would be bad process for me not to make a separate tier for myself. He's moved himself noticeably above Swan, and he has to be the favorite in that porno parody conference. I'm putting him behind me, but just by a little bit. We have 2 super teams this year, 1 in each conference. We'll see how that works out. Again, last year, Max came from the bottom to beat all the supposed super teams that I outlined in my first video. As a recap of everything, this is the board. I can post this somewhere. Probably give a little time to make people watch the video before I post it in the commish desk server. But S tier, Grant myself. Swan pretty solidly on his own, 3rd before us, but he's a good bit above Mark. Swan shouldn't have any problem coasting into the playoffs. Then you get into your question marks with Banis, Stan, Mini, Bill, West. Those are your teams that are on the cusp and can really fight each other. I like to break it down and look conference by conference, see how our drafters did, and the totals really are pretty similar. Of course, Grant, as I've said, moved up. There have been a lot of moves this offseason, which I'm a fan of, but the 2 conferences are actually pretty similar in terms of their total value. Should be an excellent year. I hope you've enjoyed these previews. I hope you enjoy our new format. I really am asking for any feedback. I want to make this as good a program as possible, but we'll see you probably with some pre-draft material. Until then, remember that the important thing is to have fun. Bye.